Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. Today guys, we're going to be diving down into the charts, taking a look at what is going on right now with BTC. As we get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and you are going to be kept up to date with all the videos that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Right, with all of that said, done and out of the way, let's jump on down into the charts, take a look at what is going on here with Bitcoin and what I think is likely to happen next. Okay guys, as we can see, we're on the hourly chart. This is Bitcoin paired with USDT, and we are using Binance as the data source, but we could of course use something like bit stamping against the USD. We kind of get the same kind of scenario, but we're going to use this one because I have this one kind of all drawn out so we can kind of get an idea as to what is going on here. Right, so obviously the volumes have significantly increased as we start to see this pullback down. Again, this is something I've been talking about for a while, something that I've been expecting to happen, only because I think it's the most probable outcome. It was also quite possible that we invalidated what I thought was going to happen and we could have continued going higher. The data was actually suggesting both scenarios. You could quite easily have seen this thing absolutely skyrocket going up, and you could also have seen it crash down dramatically like we are currently seeing right now. Obviously, I'm going to show you what I think the most likely place for the coin to actually finish, right? Where do we think Bitcoin is going to stop in this particular pullback? So what we've got here is we have an ABC down. We have this very choppy move to the upside. And if we actually go ahead and look at this in lots of different kind of wave counts, you could argue that this is an ABC move. If that is the case, then this would have been an ABC down. And we obviously went up higher than this origin position. So the ABC must be sat inside here. So you'd think it was a smaller ABC. And maybe this was the start of an A wave up, and this being a B wave low, with then going up higher in a C wave, right? That is still very possible and very valid until, of course, this red candle crosses our low point down here at $43,500, which by the point of this video going out, that may have actually crossed down there, or it may actually have started a recovery, right? But we have other data that we can acknowledge to kind of see what's going on here. Now, obviously, all of this kind of choppy moves. This is like high volatility, right, on the smaller time frame, and you're going to get a lot of noise here. But sometimes it's actually easier to remove all of that noise and actually go in with what is actually going on and what we think is the most probable, right? Here is an A wave down. That's quite a definitive move. We then have this high point that's been reached this morning. This could be the high of B wave, unless, of course, B wave crosses $45,500, in which case, that's not a B wave at all, right? And we have an ABC, and maybe this is a big A wave up, but nonetheless, it hasn't crossed that invalidation point, and therefore we have to draw in the most probable scenario, which is the C wave going lower. Okay, so if we actually take the measurement of this A wave from the top, actually no, we'll take it from the bottom, okay, to the top here. And here we can see, and we can actually take this one and just transpose it over to here. We'll just put that on top of that high point, and this actually then shows us with an area where we think we are most probably going to hit, right? A 1-to-1 ratio with the A and the C wave. That would put this right down here at about 42,375 and that kind of range. And there's also an interesting area of support in this range here as well. So let's just be very cautious over that. 42,400. There's an interesting area of overlap on wicks, but closure is not quite there. As this kind of pulls back down, you would have to look at that. So, and the other thing I want to kind of do is basically take this from the top to the bottom, okay? And we're going to look for this bounce. Where did we bounce up to, right? So I'm just going to pull that over a little bit, and we can see that actually we haven't closed above the 786. And we often say on the channel, specifically if you're familiar with the kind of way that I do my analysis here, we often look for closures above the 786, right? We want to get a closed candle above the 786 to be really confident on a good strong move to the upside. Here in the data, we've had the wicks above the 786, but we haven't actually had a closure above the 786. And of course, the daily close above this threshold is the one that you really want, because that would give you a nice strong signal to the upside. But instead, we actually have 3 wicks here, strong rejection from the 786, and now you're seeing this red candle pull back down. So this is leading me to think this is the most probable outcome in this range here of 42,400 approximately, in that kind of range. Okay, obviously that's that kind of C wave is confirmed once we once we drop down lower than this area here, right? So once we drop below 42,600, and if I actually get that on there, yeah, $42,666. If we move below that, That confirms a C wave here, okay? And then obviously after this, we would expect a push to the upside, okay? Whether this is a nice big ABC or whether or not this is a really small kind of micro ABC, there would be a bounce at this particular point, in my opinion, before potentially seeing the next kind of big kind of move in the market. So interestingly enough, we do have a couple of other things that are leading me to think that this is the most likely scenario. Obviously, we have the stochastic RSI, right? And for the most part, we've been watching that stochastic RSI move up and down rapidly on our hourly chart. The 4-hourly chart actually moved down from an overbought to an oversold area. The 8-hourly moved from overbought to oversold in the very same way. But here on the hourly chart, we've gone from oversold to overbought this morning, right? We moved this rapidly from this low range up from just down here up to this high point. And basically now we're seeing increased selling pressure. We're seeing the stochastic actually hold quite high here. Chances are we are coming down into this range. That's the most probable outcome. It's very unlikely, in my opinion, that we are going to now rapidly move up above our key areas, $45,500. That's incredibly unlikely, possible but unlikely. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of highlight these couple of things here on the smaller time frame, right? Because we often kind of let me just delete some of these fibs out of the way here. So obviously, with so much kind of volatility in the market, it can be quite difficult to see what's going on here on our hourly chart. Even anything lower than the hourly chart as well also gets very clouded. As we come up into our 4-hourly chart, we get a bit more of a definitive kind of move, right? We can see we had the move down, we had the move up, very, very choppy move up as well. Lots of overlap, right? And now we're looking at pulling back down. We can also see that basically on the way up here, that volume wasn't the best. There was a couple of pockets of buying volume, which I kind of chalk up to, a bit of FOMO, thinking that we're missing out and we're going to be going up a little bit higher. And now we're actually pulling back down. We actually see an increased volume again in the same way that we had an increased volume on this initial A wave down. Now that volume did decrease quite rapidly there. So again, we'll watch out for that one. The stochastic RSI on the 4-hourly chart actually shows us with the ability to move up, right? It's heavily oversold, which is good for knowing that this is just corrective, right? So we know that this is a corrective move, and chances are when we actually get to the bottom of wave C, there's a high probability that we'll be moving up, right? So the 4-hourly chart does support such a move. And when we come up into our 8-hourly move, again, our 8-hourly chart, the stochastic RSI is oversold. Now, the volumes are increasing as we start to pull back here, and we can see that this is a huge red candle on this chart. We are looking to come down a little bit lower, so A wave down, B wave up, C wave down lower, very probable here. Increasing volume as we're starting to pull back down. This is never a good sign. As we can see, the volumes are very, very negative at this point. On the 8-hourly chart, we are looking for corrective action. And as I said previously, a nice 10% pullback, that is very, very comfortable, right? We're not even tracking anything kind of major at this point. I'd like to think that we can pull down 10% in terms of profit being taken. That gets us into a nice accumulation, about $41,000, right? So I think that's very, very possible. It's also possible that in fact this comes down much harder depending on what comes out from the Fed and all of that kind of stuff. And by the time this video actually goes live, that might actually be very apparent. But for me right now, I do not know how that outcome is coming, etc. But for this could be, quite a dramatic move down, depending on how bearish you're feeling. But the 8-hourly chart is oversold, so we should be looking for a move up at some point, probably towards the end of this C wave. Now, as we come up into the daily, this hour that it shows us a very, very different story. Obviously, we have a micro movement kind of going on here. I say micro on that. This couple of days worth of data, it's not significant enough to really be definitive on how this is looking. But on the smaller time frame, we have this ABC kind of forming out, right? It's very possible that all of this is just an A wave move. And then we actually see a bounce up, which forms out into a, on the smaller time frame, looks like a breakout, right? It looks like we're doing really well, only to actually come and bring us down. So it's really important that we pay attention to this bigger play. After such an impulsive move up, if I actually zoom on out here, it's important that we acknowledge that, yes, profits will be taken, and it's only natural to have some form of corrective action. I've called out $39,000 before because this is a nice strong area of support and resistance previously. So this has been an interesting area that we want to pay attention to should this larger ABC actually play out. Now here, we can see some interesting volume changes. Okay, we had good push to the upside, but in the last few days, that volume, the daily volume, has decreased. If this day is a red day, in terms of a lot of selling pressure, and that selling pressure increases on the previous couple of days, there's a high probability that this is the scenario that is going to be playing out in my mind. Obviously, we are heavily overbought on our daily chart, and a heavy correction is required, and therefore thinking about a 10, maybe 15% correction is not uncommon for Bitcoin, and is very much what would be required to see that stochastic RSI get heavily corrected, as it is required to do so. So it's important that we acknowledge a couple of different things that are going on here. We obviously have some interesting kind of volatility on the smaller time frames, right? We can see that we are looking at a correction on the hourly chart. After this correction, I do anticipate a nice strong push to the upside. That, coupled with what is going on with the 4-hourly and 8-hourly, should get those back up into an overbought area along with our hourly chart. Couple that with our daily chart, and actually you could be gearing up for a C wave down. Okay, so A wave down right now is an ABC move on the smaller time frames, yet on the next kind of push up, that could be our B wave forming out on the daily, and then we get a deeper pullback with wave C on the daily chart. For me, that would actually then be a nice healthy correction overall on the data, and allow us then to be, continuing a good push to the upside overall. On this daily chart, just want to just bear that in mind. The macro view on the daily is indicating a reasonable, healthy pullback, nothing to kind of be too alarmed with. And obviously, you'd analyze the market again once you're at the bottom of this point to see what's actually going on here with our volumes, what's going on here with our stochastic RSI, our regular RSI, and see if there's any good areas of support resistance that we should be worried about, etc. Of course, when we actually go up into our weekly chart, we're looking very, very good, right? We see good corrective action here. Good push to the upside. If depending on how you want to kind of count this, lots of different ways you can obviously count it. We are of course tracking a kind of zigzag. It's possible, or was possible, and still technically is, that we go down lower in this C wave down. Right? It's I know a lot of people are calling out maybe a $27,000 Bitcoin. That's very possible until proven otherwise, which can't be done unless we cross higher than wave B, basically new all-time highs, right? So this zigzag pattern, it can't be invalidated until we hit a new all-time high, or of course we actually come down to $27,000. But that's the only two scenarios that could play out with the weekly chart here. When we take a look at the volume though, across the weeks, what is supporting a pullback here, of course, is the volume. And we can see this here, week on week decrease in volume. We've been pushing up in the last 3 weeks, but the volumes have been decreasing. So with that stochastic RSI where it is, do expect it to kind of be, maybe getting a little bit of a pullback here. Nothing too major though, but potentially see a pullback inside this data. Now, until proven otherwise, we should always be looking at the macro view. The macro view gives us two scenarios. One, we're looking for recovery, but of course we cannot push right up without some kind of healthy correction, what I've spoken about on the smaller timeframes. So you might actually see this as an A wave, a B wave, and a C wave, or this might actually just be, a wave 1 with a wave 2 pullback, which is the healthy one to 39K, a wave 3 takes us up, potentially up into new all-time highs, a wave 4 correction, and a wave 5 higher. Okay. Lots of different ways to look at it. Obviously, on that journey, two things are very apparent. We need to either set a new all-time high to invalidate the lows, or we need to come down into those lower lows and complete this C wave. Those are the two kind of options that I'm looking at here. Neither are something that we can actually measure anytime soon, and we have to be very mindful of that. So our daily chart needs a correction. We know this. This is something that we can see inside the data right now, and we are starting to see on the daily chart we are looking for corrective action. Great. So we now have a bit of a path here. On our 8-hourly chart, we can of course acknowledge that volumes are increasing as we are pulling back down. So high selling pressure, we are of course oversold. So this can continue for a little while yet. We can be down here for quite some time. As you can see previously, this is not a problem to be down here for a period of time. So that would allow us for a nice correction before potentially going up into a daily B wave high. As we obviously talk about this 4-hourly, same scenario. We can be down here for a while. We've been down here for a little bit as it stands. Volumes are increasing with selling pressure. So let's be mindful that we are looking for that C wave to get completed. As we come into our hourly, we're correcting the stochastic RSI on our hourly chart here, but we do need to see Obviously, this play out, come down towards our C range before we can even acknowledge a potential kind of ABC move up. The volumes have really increased now, so I imagine that that is going to potentially break some of these previous areas. Obviously, we're looking for this confirmation of a C wave down. So, guys, I'm going to kind of leave the video there. I've kind of gone through what I think is going to happen on the short, medium, and long-term viewpoints. If you have found it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then go ahead and subscribe. Tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you are going to be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.